I think this hits home for you and me. This is Connla, he, him from UK. Wants to talk about how NFTs might ruin video games.
Hello, Emma.
Hi, Connla.
You know what you want to say?
Do we have a friend calling here?
We have a buddy call.
Oh, very nice. All right, let's hear what you got about video games.
So one of the interesting things about NFTs is the idea of ownership, and the big thing is that everybody's trying to work out how they're going to work with video games. And at the moment, it's pretty awful because it's just basically people selling useless crap and trying to make it fit, as in it's valuable because it's rare. But the big fear is that in the near future, like there's some NFT games going at the moment where it's like play to earn, which is a horrible notion. But the kind of scarier thing down the line is the idea that people can start buying spaces in online games. And like the thing that I saw, it was done as a joke, but it is kind of a terrifying prospect, is the idea that games like Grand Theft Auto, people can use NFTs to buy the spaces. So when you go into servers, they're all just going to be owned before you even get in there. So unless you're in a video game, like it's that pyramid scheme thing you're talking about, unless you're in there right at the beginning, you're not going to enjoy the game. You're going to arrive the game and everybody else is going to own everything and all that because it's all bought up with real money and cryptocurrency and stuff. And it's just going to make video games just not enjoyable anymore. There's no kind of space to just enjoy video games anymore because it's all going to be tied up with money in a much more kind of insidious manner.
No, and you know what? There are a lot of MMOs out there who would agree with you. And this is, I've heard about buying land in these spaces also. But one thing this goes back to what I was saying is that the technology already exists for this, right? For example, in the game Final Fantasy 14, you can buy land, but it's only in a very secure location. You can decorate it. You can invite only the people that you want to this, right? But this technology exists without having to go the NFT route. Now, in anything that I've ever looked at about owning land in a space, it's again buying into a specific type of crypto, not just any. It's not just any. They want you to buy a specific type, to buy specific land in some only one specific world, right? But again, this doesn't seem to be any different than the analogs we already have that arguably are working better. When we talk about pay to earn games, again, you're hitting me where it counts because there are a lot of MMOs that had real life space where you are the what they call it hardcore PvP games, where you're absolutely right. If the people buying in early secure a whole bunch of land, first of all, it makes it really crappy for anybody else who wants to get into the game on their own without also buying into their systems, right? Without saying, I want to be in your guild because you have the strongest garrison or whatever, right? You're right. It ruins spaces. And the games that feature this don't last very long. Okay, it's the games that carefully isolate the land that you own from the rest of the play space where people want to just play the game, that like Final Fantasy 14, World of Warcraft, where you have a garrison. The games that separate that are the ones that last the longest. So my concern is, yes, you can buy land in this space. How long is this domain even going to last? Because as soon as it goes away, there's nothing saying we're going to refund your money. Am I right?
Yeah, and then there's question like how it would affect even things like streaming. I mean, I don't know, kind of open up to Emma how you would feel kind of going to do some kind of stream and then finding like, oh, because crypto people have gotten there before you can't really interact as much with the game as you would normally would. But just kind of throwing out there.
There's kind of, I feel like we're just starting to kind of legislate a lot of these video game problems anyway, even before kind of crypto or NFT starts to come into it, when you've got like pay to win stuff and then things like loot boxes and all these kind of challenges that we're trying to overcome. And then I think suddenly adding NFT on top, I just think it's going to complicate it. It's going to make it really difficult. And because the NFT route kind of relies on the buying and selling, it worries me. But the first thing, when you're talking about buying spaces, I was like, are we going to have GTA is going to start mirroring real life where the property prices just skyrocket because people are selling? And then I think of stuff like it's the game that's like Playmobil characters that kids love.
Oh, Roblox.
And Roblox, yeah, where you've got essentially basically a scam marketplace there, where you've got 12-year-olds buying and selling thousands of dollars worth of merchandise. If you start adding NFTs and blockchain into that, I think I would just step away. I don't think I could deal with it, because it's the legislation. It's the legislation that we just don't have. We're still trying to legislate online video game spaces anyway. Let's not NFT it up right now, please. That's my feeling.
No, yeah, and in any economy where you have free players playing in the same time as players who are paying to play, you have basically three different people in this economic system. You have the people who are playing for free, and so honestly, some of them just are happy to engage with the game at that level and play what they're allowed to play. Okay, then you have some of the guppies in the middle, and the guppies in the middle will be the ones who will pay a small amount to play. This is the majority of players of games like, I don't know, Candy Crush or something, where they're like, okay, I'll pay a little bit for it. It's a high five to the developer. You know, it's a game that I play a lot, so it's worth spending a little bit on. But all this, you know, that's not really who the draw is. The draw is you want the whales, right? You want the people who are going to spend redunculous amounts of money on your game. Even though they represent such a vast minority, it's easier to keep them happy. But the best way to keep them happy is to have a lot of people that they can whale over, right? It doesn't do any good if you're the whale, but you're only surrounded by other whales, right? Sharks need the minnows to feed off of. So the problem with games like this that you're talking about, and they know this, and that's why they're not very popular, is because games that favor whales over guppies just plain don't last very long. And hopefully the people who are designing games around crypto based on this and around NFTs that are based on this have learned the lessons of cash-based MMOs and cash-based games that have already failed. And this, by the way, numbers in the dozens. This isn't just like one bad failure. This is a consistent failure of games that that follow this model. Right? You need the whales, but to make the whales happy, you need the guppies and you need the free players who will not play if they don't feel like they can meaningfully compete where there are whales. Okay. So again, though, it seems like, and I think you're in agreement with this, there aren't anything new that NFTs are adding to this formula that isn't already accounted for elsewhere. Like
there is one aspect they're adding that's.
Sorry, go ahead.
There is one aspect they're adding that's kind of there is one aspect they're adding that's kind of terrifying, which is the whales are mostly victims. You know, they're people who are taken advantage of by the game where they're not controlling the spending very well. But the way with NFTs coming involved, there is potential that they could turn whales into sharks, because you could potentially create, when you combine it with the idea of like, we used to have like server ownership where people would, rent servers or they'd set up their own servers personally, and it's just something they run on their own time. With NFTs, you could turn that into a financial aspect to it much more, where people could like use NFTs to buy server spaces, and then they become digital landlords. So you end up with a scenario where you can't get away from landlords in the real world, and now you can't get away from them in video games either, because you'll have actual digital landlords who own over like whole swaths of online video games, especially multiplayer games, where that's kind of terrifying from my perspective. The idea that you can actually end up with landlords in video games.
Well, I got to wrap up the show. This is super engaging, and you're absolutely correct. I'm going to leave you with a thought. I'm going to leave with the audience with a thought. And that is that the fact that these digital spaces don't really mean much unless a lot of people think it means something. So what's going to happen when these people who invest a lot of money or a lot of NFTs into owning digital land just stop having people going to that digital land? What are they stuck owning, and what is the value of it that's tangible enough that they can get rid of, again, without trying to scam the next person down the line? Connla, thank you very much for the call, and thanks for the insight.
Thank you, Connla.
I very much appreciate it. Have a good night.
Good night.
Have a good night. It's like 3:00 in the morning, but have a good night. Thank you very much.